Welcome back to the Rocky Road Podcast. I am here with a surprise guest. No, just kidding. You know her. She's Mandy. And we're going to hear a little bit about her experiences in co-parenting.
Oh my gosh. That is so official sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So each season we drop an episode on our own personal stories. So you get to know us better. So I thought it would be cool to just talk about my journey from divorce to co-parenting, learning how to navigate that, and then meeting a new significant other for him, like his significant other, his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that what they call each other? As adults, it's weird.
It's really weird.
Because until last year, I was with my,
boyfriend.
Well, now he's my husband. But I was with him for 4 years as a boyfriend. And I'm like, I'm 30 years old with a boyfriend. It just sounds...
I know, but there's people that are 55 with boyfriends.
That's why I always said partner.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. My
Yeah.
guy, my gal.
So his...
My woman.
Sig of.
My man.
Sig O.
His girlfriend.
There you
yes. So, yeah. So actually, part of it is like resource based. There's a lot of things that I did to get from where we divorced to where I met her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting because if you listen to my story in the first season, I talk about kind of what happened and where we ended off with things. And we had a really rough divorce, really just a rough time, rough year and a half or so. And I think for me, one of the things that I learned throughout that process is that you have to take time to heal. But I learned to be so much more compassionate for people that have like much more rapid changes. So this was almost 3 years ago that all this happened. And it took me 3 years to get to a point where I was actually happy for him.
Mm-hmm. It's only been in the past couple of months that you've been talking about it and being able to share. You probably were feeling that way before, but you actually just started to share positive things about your relationship.
It's interesting because you never get married to get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get divorced, it's a surprise in some capacity. Mm-hmm. It's a surprise because you don't stand up on the stage aisle. What is it called? Platform.
Down the aisle.
You don't walk down the aisle, get to the end,
Altar?
say your vows, and just say for better or for worse, except for when things are really bad, then no more.
Mm-hmm.
You get divorced.
Yeah, that's never the plan.
Right. So us getting divorced, it was an unwanted divorce. Like I didn't want to be divorced. So I had to process through the fact that I prayed for a long time for reconciliation. Mm-hmm. And actually in my journal, it's about a year that I prayed for reconciliation. And I think I talk about this in the first season. I remember the day that was lifted from me, that I didn't need to keep praying for reconciliation, that it wasn't going to happen. And I just accepted that it wouldn't. So that journey began co-parenting. How do we do this? So we had a difficult custody battle. It wasn't, I wouldn't even say it was a battle, honestly. It was just a very difficult season in our lives, maneuvering through custody and what that looked like and who was responsible for her when and for how long and all of that. Again, something you don't plan for, especially when you have a 2-year-old. So she needs more at 2 than a 10-year-old. But a 10-year-old is very aware of what's happening. So there's every age is different and difficult. Mm-hmm. But for us, we had to work through custody. And I remember waking up, finding out about another woman. And I remember being so angry physically in my stomach. There was like a pit in my stomach. And I remember multiple times over the course of about 6 months or so that Reagan would make a comment about a female's name. And I was like, who is this person? So I would get really angry and kind of lash out to him of like, who are you? Who's around her? You know, are you seeing somebody? You know, because I was still coming to this acceptance that he didn't want to be my husband anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was still trying to grieve the loss of being married. Meanwhile, I was hearing about all these other people's names, and I didn't have somebody's name that was coming up all the time either. I was alone. I was living in my parents' basement, so I was at a low point for myself. Mm-hmm. And then to hear like he had another female's name. Some of the women were coworkers or family, or honestly, I don't really even know all the connections, but I remember having that pit in my stomach of almost wanting to vomit when I heard or the thought of him being with somebody else. So being divorced and co-parenting, for me personally was I wanted him, I hate to even admit this, but I wanted him to be alone because of what he did. He didn't deserve to be with somebody else and he didn't deserve to be happy.
But
and
was part of that because you were also alone?
I think so. Yeah. So I was alone, but I was also alone with a 2-year-old. So that's, you know, I threw myself a little pity party. That's not fair. Why am I alone and I have a 2-year-old and you get to be alone and go live your life and do what you want to do? So I don't really know the details of what happened through there, but I remember, so that was about almost 3 years ago. And it took me about a year of almost feeling like I was going to vomit. The anxiety was so high and my hands would shake and I would just feel totally not okay. Any thought of him being with another woman would send me down this spiral of a terrible day. So, that was just a process that I had to maneuver through. This is a resource. One book that honestly changed my life was Forgiving What You Can't Forget by Lysa TerKeurst. And it was the most healing book that I've ever read because it talked about forgiving and what it means to forgive, but you can't forget it.
Nor should you.
Nor should you. Right. It's a part of who you are. So I read that book. And I also remember one of my mentors, I would meet with her every week and pray together for reconciliation at this time. And when we would meet, one of the things she would tell me when I had found out or had thought there was another woman involved, or, you know, when I would hear a name or something, and she would say, Mandy, wouldn't it be great if he had somebody there to support him through this because of how isolated he was? And her encouragement to me was very healing as well. And I started to then start praying for that other woman. And who is that person? And I just prayed for that woman to be supportive to him and be good to him and give him what I couldn't at the time provide him because I was in the position I was in. And so all of that was really like the learning curve that it took to get to a place of forgiveness, a place of healing, a place of acceptance, and a place of it's okay. But I think, so fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, a month ago or so, for the last 6 months, I've been hearing about this woman's name a lot from Reagan. And then eventually I had, he texted me and he was like, I really want you to meet this person. She's really important to me. And when he sent me the message, I didn't have that pit in my stomach. And I think it was the hard work done in the confidence in myself, the confidence to know that our relationship was over and it was okay that it was over, and the confidence to know that it's okay to move forward. And so when he sent me, he's like, I really want you to meet her. I'm really sorry to have to do this to you. Because I think ultimately our divorce, neither one of us wanted, but there's just no way we could have worked past it. It just, the damage was so severe that it just would not have been healthy to try to restore it. So when he asked me about this, I said, sure. And then, he said, I want you to meet her. And I was actually excited for him because I want him. We were so young. We were divorced at 20. I was 28. So he was 29 when we got divorced. And why would you want somebody to sit in that space forever? Like, I want you to move on. I want you to be happy. I want you to have somebody. I want somebody to care for you because I am not that person anymore, whether or not that was my choice.
Do you know, so you've switched from that pit and you're in a much, much different place now. Do you think you can identify a pivot point? Can you identify a moment that you noticed that was different? Or was it just this past month when you were asked to meet this person?
No.
Or all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess that's not a symptom of my
I
guilt
think
anymore,
the biggest thing for
anymore.
me, the biggest realization that I had was I went through a season where I didn't want to be with anybody anymore. And I was going to be single for the rest of my life. I was not interested in getting remarried at all. Did not want anything to do with being with somebody. After that point kind of started fading and I started getting the thought of maybe I could be with somebody again. I'm young and maybe I could get remarried someday. And this was probably maybe a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago when I started, about a year and a half, I'm going to say, or so ish. And when I started thinking about when I maybe get remarried. And then I don't remember a specific day, but I remember the time in my life where I was like, why is it fair for me to say, I can't wait to get remarried someday? And then also have this seated bitterness and anger towards him, who may also want to get remarried someday. So I remember thinking, that's not fair. How is it okay for me and not for him? And that's when I started digging into the root of it and started healing and started thinking, it's okay. I feel like I've healed a lot, and it's okay for me to have the desire someday to be remarried. For him, if he's put the work in and done that and he's wants that too, like why would I want him to be alone for the rest of his life as almost a punishment?
But to go back to what you just said, that's putting you as equals in the crumbling of the relationship. Like that was a total mindset shift of you saying, okay, we had equal part in this relationship.
Yeah.
And its inability to continue in a healthy way. And so that's a place that a lot of people won't ever get. And there were so many nasty divorces that they won't even ever talk to each other again. And there are kids involved. There are all this sorts of things. So even being able to say this was a team effort to start, team effort to get married. And unfortunately it was a team effort to end.
Yeah.
So that's growth even there.
For sure. And I think it's just acceptance of certain things you can't say are one-sided. They are mutual understandings of things. So like, for example, one thing I found out when we were in counseling, him and I were going through counseling. I was going through counseling hoping for reconciliation. He was going through counseling just basically doing it because I asked him to with the knowledge that we were not going to get back together. And so we worked through this and we learned our communication styles with each other. And one of the things that I had learned through this counseling, which was immensely helpful, was that if he's struggling with something, he needs time to process. So then I noticed he was struggling with something and I was like, what's wrong? Talk to me. Let's talk about it. Can I sit with you? Can I be with you? Can we tell me what's going on? And that would almost push him into a corner and then he would shut down. So I realized over the course of as a wife to him for the years that we were married, there were a lot of times that I would shut him down, or there were a lot of times that I would belittle him or say something to him. So again, it wasn't like one moment that I think caused our separation. And I would say that we both have different stories of what was happening in our lives at that time, and that's okay. So it is what it is. But when we separated, it was taking accountability for each of our actions in that, even though the separation was not my choice. Having the accountability of saying I wasn't a perfect wife, and also coming to the realization that maybe God didn't equip me to be the right person for him. And I don't know theologically where this comes in. Obviously God doesn't want people to be divorced, but when I met his new girlfriend, I can already see that she's much more fit for him than I am. And whether or not that pursues to long-term of marriage and together, I don't know. That's yet to be determined. But just meeting her, for me, I was like, yes, she has the personality, the capabilities, the knowledge. What she is what he needs. And that wasn't me. And I'm okay with that now. Him and I are always connected as parents to our daughter. We need to work together as parents, but I do not need to try to bombard or prove that I would have been a better wife than what he could have. We've both grown. Again, we were young. I was 28. He was 29 when we divorced. We had a 2-year-old, almost 3. So that's really young. And we got married at 23 and 24. So we were trying to figure out life together,
how to be adults
amongst living military life, amongst living in another state, amongst his sister had cancer, terminal cancer, amongst moving, new houses, military life of him shipping out for 6 weeks or whatever. He did a deployment. We had normal life things happening. And at 25, I had my daughter. So there's a lot going on right in that season of life that had a lot of things stacked against us. and our communication wasn't super great, and we struggled financially, and there were just things that were triggers for us that made it difficult to work together. So when we separated and we were both able to take the time to heal from it, we came to a point where we could then actually work together as co-parents to Reagan, and not try to work any further on what it would be to be a spouse to each other. And there was, I would say, probably 2 years after a divorce, if he would have walked up on my porch with flowers and asked me to get back together with him, I would have said, let's work it out. Yes.
I remember asking you at some point during, because we met right when this was kind of at a head. The separation had either just happened or was about to happen when we first met.
Yep.
And I do remember asking you, would you consider remarrying him? Would you consider working out with him? And you at one point said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it was still on the table. It was still a consideration that you hadn't closed the door on.
Yeah. And I think that could have partly been the pit in my stomach thinking about another woman with him, because it
jeopardizes that opportunity.
Yeah. Then
if you decided you wanted it, that wouldn't be available to you.
The door would be completely shut. And I think there was an underlying fear in me that I was like, is he going to forget about me? And as our daughter's mom, is somebody going to be better than me? And I think, so for me, the work I had to do was get to know myself, be confident in who I was, and then just support him and be there for him. So where we are today, we have grown immensely. Honestly, there's no explainable reason for why him and I can have a good friendship. We should not. If all of the cards were stacked as what has happened to the two of us over the last 3-4 years, we shouldn't be friends, let alone be co-parents. And I think, again, it was work that was put into this whole process through my own counseling, through counseling together. Both of us came to this realization that Reagan does not deserve to be mistreated or to be put in a bad position because of something her parents couldn't deal with. So she did not need to be punished as a small child, in whether that be put in the middle of something, whether that be trying to be a better parent to another, like I'm a better mom than he is a dad, and he's a better dad than I am a mom, and compare ourselves. She deserved to be treated with respect and loved and cared for and nourished as a small child, and then she can grow up and make her own decisions. And I've always told myself, I never want her to look at me and say, I don't have a good relationship with my dad because of you. I want it to be on her own. So, and not that I don't want her to have a bad relationship with her dad. Don't hear that. I want her to have a great relationship with her dad, and I want her to have a great relationship with her mom. And ideally, in a perfect world, she would have a great relationship with her dad and her stepmom, and a great relationship with her mom and her stepdad. And 4 people could love her instead of 2, which is a beauty from ashes kind of thing, where you can have this beautiful end result for Reagan's sake from a very unfortunate situation.
Beauty from ashes is the best way to wrap that up. It really is, because I think even seeing the logistical nature of your co-parenting, when he would come pick her up when you were having dinner, right? As we used to have Chick-fil-A dinners. And it would just be a very like, I'm here for Reagan. Okay, thanks. Goodbye. And it's very logistical, very black and white, to him going and picking out presents for you for Mother's Day, and just these very sweet things that are nice gestures that weren't there in the beginning, that I think there's more of a mutual respect now, because your love for your daughter is so strong that both of you just want her to be that glue that keeps the relationship together.
And I've always been very grateful for, I usually get something for Valentine's Day from him and Reagan, and I get something for Mother's Day from him and Reagan, and I usually get something for my birthday from him and Reagan. Not every single time, but I would say it's been made pretty clear. So for me, I take Reagan and her and I go and get Father's Day gifts for him. We get his birthday gift and we get him a Christmas gift. And, you know, that's kind of our thing to do because I want her to be in a normal quote marriage. You would have a dad and a mom, and the dad or the mom takes their kid shopping for their other person. So how is that? It shouldn't be any different in a divorce situation that you can go with your, like, I take Reagan to do this for dad and he takes Reagan to do this for mom. And it's not for us because we're in love with each other. It's because we mutually respect each other as her father and her mother. And I think that's why I don't really ever call him my ex-husband because, and I've said this before, like, I don't like that connotation. It sounds so negative and so just not pleasant. So even the other day we were somewhere and he was like, this is Reagan's mom. He introduced me. This is Reagan's mom. And I'll say, this is Reagan's dad, or Reagan's dad did this and whatever. And it just sounds a lot more.
It's positive. It's strength-based. It's positive.
Yeah. So we try to do that and try to work together. So honestly, Forgiving What You Can't Forget was the book that did it for me. And the counseling was immensely helpful. Going through counseling, figuring out who you are. And then I think just humbling myself down to this place of, he is a human being and I am a human being, and neither one of us are better than the other.
So tell me about that process though, because counseling can help you get to know yourself a lot, but the process of humbling yourself is not one that is easy or one that most people will choose. So what was helpful for you?
As far as even being with somebody else goes in counseling, the counselor would work with me on just being confident in myself. And then I would hear things in counseling like, Mandy, it's okay for you to move on. It's okay for you to meet somebody. It's okay for you to dream about being married again one day, or it's okay to even think about kids again one day, which is yet to be determined. But, they would give me the counselor would basically open the door to give me the privilege to go to this place that I was almost afraid to step in. Like there were parts of me that didn't feel like I deserved to be married again. I didn't want to get hurt again. So I have a fear of marriage in a way of, please don't leave me. And so working through that, but the biggest part of humbling myself was I got to a place where I again was thinking about remarriage and being married again. And I remember, and I still do this, I have to put myself in his shoes. So if I'm in this place and I say to myself, I would want him to be happy for me if I met somebody else. Why should I react any different to him meeting somebody and moving forward? So that's what I had to come to. And that's not easy. It also comes in waves because I met his girlfriend about a month ago. I sent him a message about her. She was very nice, very kind, very good to Reagan, which is really what I would want. And it was somebody who could make him happy. And that is no longer my role, nor my duty in life is to be his wife. My duty in life is to be Reagan's mom. And that's where I got to. So I met her. I actually was excited about it. Asked me 2 years ago, I probably would have thrown up or had a sob fest, to the point where I met her and I was like, first of all, she's exactly what he needs. Second of all, she's too good for him. So like, it just came to that point where I was like, she just seems super nice, very kind from what I did get to know of her. She's willing to work with me. And I think that takes a huge amount of humility when you come in as a step parent. I'm not a step parent, but if you came in as a step parent, you can't, like, do not overstep mom or overstep dad. Your roles are not in that way. In a situation that we have, obviously, if there's an absent parent, it's a different dynamic. But with ours, we have, him and I both have a very strong, reconciled connection as parents. So, and he has told me, he said, nobody will ever replace Reagan's mom. And I have told him nobody will ever replace Reagan's dad forever. And so, you know, we had that whole process. But as I was saying, I went to his house not too long ago to pick up Reagan. And when I got there, I saw pictures and things in their house, and the wave of grief just kind of smashed me for a minute. You know, it was hard to walk into his house and see somebody else in the way where I would walk into our house and I would see our wedding pictures on the wall, and I would see pictures of us as a couple. And we've talked about grief before. It's not linear and it's not consistently going up. So you reach this point where you're happy for him. I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him. You know, I hope it works out. I'm glad that she's good to Reagan, and I'm glad that he and I have this understanding of where we are as parents. But the wave of grief kind of knocked me down for, 10, 15 minutes after I got back in my car. And I was like, okay, there it is again, you know, that, and just acknowledging that grief and knowing that it's okay to feel that by seeing pictures of him with another woman. Knowing that, yes, I'm happy for them, but I can also grieve at the same time that that's not me anymore. And I can also be happy for myself moving forward, that my pictures in my house are not our wedding pictures, you know? And so I think that it's a whole compile of, was that even a word? Compilation? Thank you. Of emotions. And it's really understanding each one. I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him. I'm sad that it's not me anymore, but I'm also happy and excited for myself that I will have that someday. And,
are you sad because it's not you with him, or that it's not you in a relationship?
Probably with him. Yeah. Just that it's just breaking, it's continuing to break down those barriers of social expectations, that we will never have a picture of a family vacation of the three of us in 2022. You know, like maybe we'll go on a family vacation together sometime. That's mutually, you know, even if it's like him and his spouse and me and my spouse someday, like, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? Like, we get along well enough. You know, we've already talked about taking Reagan to Disney and how expensive Disney is. It's like, we might need to do this together. Yeah,
like, absolutely.
And so, but maybe not. I don't know. So I can't say in the future, like, we will never have a family picture because he's not dead. So it's possible, but when I see couple pictures or pictures of him, like them maybe kissing or something, it's like, that will never happen anymore. And I think it's partially that it's like not in a relationship and he is in a relationship. And so having those differences, but I just come back to, I know that God has somebody for him and has somebody for me that meet what we both need. And I know for certain he could not be the husband that I needed anymore, and what I need from somebody. All that came from work and counseling, and knowing, what do I need? What am I looking for? What kind of support do I need? Am I okay being by myself? And how long is that going to last? And again, like, I give so much credit to people that have a significant other that something has happened and they move on so quickly. And I know that can be equally as difficult too. So I have a lot of compassion for those people, because I think I would have thrown up if that happened to me. I honestly don't know how I would have been able to handle it. Obviously you have to, like, you don't have a choice, but, yeah, that would have been really hard. So this is almost 3 years of a lot of work. That is very difficult to get to this point. I would say, honestly, I think the acceptance would have happened a lot sooner. The fact that I can actually be excited for him now is what took time.
Absolutely. So, and I know it's hard to imagine a world without Reagan.
Yes.
But it would have been a whole different story had she not been the connecting fiber between you two. And it could have been a whole different story for him emotionally, knowing what he was going through, for you emotionally knowing what you were going through. Maybe having her gave you both some purpose.
Absolutely. We would not be connected, nor would we be friends if she didn't exist. Bottom line. So we've just had to, we have her. We made her. Like, she is ours. And he is her dad and I am her mom biologically and always. That's what it will be, no matter what. So for the two of us, he's made the comment to me before too. He said, I will never be with somebody that wouldn't respect you, Mandy. So I feel like I still have that respect in him to have that, which I'm very grateful for. So I try not to take advantage of that. And then just us working together, respecting each other, I think is a huge thing. But again, I just go back, like I wanted to go against the grain. I didn't want to have a bad co-parenting experience. I didn't want to have a negative, like, why would you want to live with bitterness and anger and resentment towards your ex-spouse?
So many people do.
Who has moved on. Like that made me feel disgusting. Like I hated feeling that way. So I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to be angry. So I was like, how can I fix this? What do you need to do? You need to personally develop yourself and work on yourself, because you can't fix them. You're not going to fix them. So you have to get to this point where it's like, how can I get to this place of acceptance and excitement and understanding and be able to work on that. So it is different, very different with kids. It's probably very different. I'm sure we'll probably talk to somebody that's been divorced with kids that are older, and that's a whole different ballgame. And, people that are divorced with no kids, people that are divorced after 40 years of marriage. We were only married 5. So just shy of 5 years, actually. There's a loud truck.
Very loud truck. So what is something that has been a surprise gift from your whole separation?
Like physical gift or just like
no, just
gift?
What's an unexpected perk is a funny word to say, but just what is something that you did not expect to be something that you love and appreciate?
Weekends off.
That's a good one though. I mean, I do remember you saying earlier on that sometimes people forget that you have a kid. Because they're like, oh, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, putting Reagan to bed.
Yeah.
Like, it's a school night.
By myself.
Yeah.
Getting her a bath. She's also only 5.5. So she still needs mom for a lot of things. She's independent, but she still needs mom. I can't just like up and leave and she's sleeping and I can up and leave. Like, nope, I got to stay at my house.
Yeah. Well, you have an adventurous spirit. So the times that you don't have her, not that you're like, woo, live it up, mom's gone wild. That's not you either, but you're able to trust that she is with someone who you trust.
Yes.
So you're able to relax and enjoy time with girls. And we've gone to like concerts. We've gone just like to dinner, just something that's not necessarily able to be possible with her there. We love her very much and I love spending time with her as well, but mom can breathe a little bit easier.
Yes.
When mom, I'm
hungry. Mom, can you get this for me? Mom, can you give me a piggyback ride?
Quick little story. Mandy and Reagan were at my house, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And I don't think she'd met Cody yet at that point.
No.
So by the end of the night, she brought this like whole tub of little dolls and you just heard her little voice. Cody.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to my life.
Yeah. And she like chose Cody too, just like, Cody.
Yep. Cody.
And he was super sweet about it, but it was just funny. He's like, wow.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, you went from having a dog to a 5.5-year-old. How's that feel?
Yeah. Welcome to the life where you are always wanted. And when you're the only one in the house, you have no other option. So it's always mom. Just this, mom. And I have like the queen of negotiating and procrastinating and all of that. So,
she definitely tries to negotiate.
Yeah. Mom, I'll make a deal with you.
Right. She's like, well, what if you can tell in her face.
Of course. Yeah. So we work through that, but, and also, so I would say the biggest things, the perks to it are my communication with him because of our divorce and going through counseling has been a lot better. I want to work with him and he wants to work with me and we mutually agree to do that for Reagan. So certain things that are very good communication that we are amazing. It's communication about school, where she goes to school. She goes to a private school. So like where she goes to school and any school things like uniforms. So we had the school supply list this year in school uniforms. And I said, if I get uniforms, can you get supplies? Can we split supplies? Can we do this? And it's like, let's work together on this for her and not want to hate each other through this process.
What a valuable lesson for her to see that.
Yeah. And she, I mean, don't get me wrong. She asks the questions like, why aren't you and daddy married anymore? And why doesn't daddy live with us? And, you know, I get the questions. I have to process through that. And we can do a whole other episode on things like that. But I also get, you know, the question of like him and I have a better relationship separated than we would have if we stayed together. Yeah. So for her benefit, she's seeing a peaceful, cohesive, co-parenting, positive relationship of how we're working together for her and for her to live the best life. And other than her seeing a married couple that were angry with each other and frustrated with each other and not supportive and maybe bitter, but we stayed married. So I also think that it was just healthier overall for both of us. I look forward to my weekends off, but I also miss her, and I have fun with her on weekends that I have her. So it's like a double blessing for me. I think I get a weekend off that's free, that I can be with friends, do things, and I plan things around it. But weekends that I do have her, I try to spend the time with her and that whole thing. But, you know, so certain things, like I would just encourage people that are co-parenting to get to a place where you can be excited for the other person. So when she's with dad and she comes back, how was it? Did you have fun? What'd you do? Because I can be excited for her. They go on vacation together and that's great because he will take her all the way into the ocean and I will take her to her feet. And that's about it. And then, so we have that. And so I know he can give her things that I cannot. He loves movies. I hate movies. So if he wants to sit down and watch movies with her, he can sit down with her and watch movies. And that'll give her a new experience. So she gets 2 different homes, 2 different lifestyles, 2 different personalities, 2 different expectations, but our morals and our values lock together, that we agree that we're going to raise her in a specific way. And, you know, I'm okay with him doing certain things. Like he will never take her to church and I will always take her to church and that's okay because she knows that when she's with dad, she gets to watch the Eagles on Sunday. When she's with mom, we go to church on Sunday and it's okay. Like it's not, one is not right and wrong. You know, it's like, it's just the way that we work and that's the way that she's going to grow up. And I would rather grow up working with her and working with him than against him, making her life more difficult. So bottom line, I'm very, very grateful for the relationship that we have. And I very much appreciate him as her dad because I know there are situations that are not that good. There are situations where they can never be that good, honestly. And so I'm grateful for it, but it also takes work on both parties. He has to be responsible and work hard, and I have to be responsible and work hard, and we mutually have to agree. So my encouragement to anybody co-parenting is humble yourself. It's okay. Don't make the kids suffer. And I mean, you can only do your part and just hope that it's matched and received on the other side of things. So I'm not here to brag about it. I'm not here to thrive, but it took an immense amount of hard work for both of us. We should not be talking.
And there still will be challenges that come up that then you're going to say, okay, well, let's figure out this. Like, hello, puberty. And him saying, oh my gosh, teenage girls. Like, there's going to be things that are making things challenging. And you'll just address it. But now that you have this strong foundation of respect, that is the word that keeps coming to my mind, is you respect your roles mutually.
Yeah. And there are, like I said before, there's certain things that as a dad, I can never do for her. There's certain things as a mom, he can never do for her just because of who we are in her life. And it actually came up the other week where we had a disagreement and it didn't really go very well. But he humbled himself and he apologized to me. And I was very grateful for that. And there's been moments where I have said something or stepped out of line or gotten frustrated or, you know, whatever. And I need to humble myself and apologize and just say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be short with you. And I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on something. And just be willing to work. Clear communication, mutual respect, honesty, openness, forgiveness. And we are where we are. And I'm grateful for that. Because we also don't have a choice. We have, 13 more years? And 13 more years of mutual decisions that we need to make. Why would I want to live through hell making all those decisions for that many years? Nope. We're going to work together. And at the end, my hope and my prayer is that at Reagan's high school graduation, she's got 2 sets of parents that love her and care for her. Your family is the same way. You have a mixed family.
I've got all sorts of bonus parents.
Yeah. So it's like, why not have extra people there to love you than not? So work together. Keep the kids number one. Humble yourself. It's okay to be wrong. And it's okay to work through things. And it's okay to have bumps and rocky roads. But at the end of the day, Reagan is doing much better the way that things have ended and are progressing forward than had we stayed together. So
it's nice to see you guys happy.
Yes, it is.
Happier.
And I'm excited to see where that goes and what that looks like and where that takes us both. And I'm excited for him meeting his girlfriend, just as one day I hope he's excited for me. And so we just wait and we just one day at a time along this rocky journey called life. Rocky road journey called life. So thanks for my little TED talk today. Is that like not ethical to say?
I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
I don't know either. Okay, well that's my encouragement.
It's your Mandy talk.
It's my Mandy talk. That's the encouragement for the day.
Well, thank you for, as always, sharing, being open, honest.
That's all.
And realistic, because sometimes it just downright sucks.
And read that book. I'm telling you.
Love Lysa TerKeurst.
Read the book.
I think I have like 8 of her books.
For anybody.
Also comes with a journal.
It's not even marriage related. In her case, I think it is too. But my gosh, that book sobbed.
What a woman.
Great. Have a good week.
Love ya.